Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rug in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug!
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Welcome to your feature presentation. I am your host, Heath Fall. Today we are talking about top 10 needed adaptations and some movies coming out this weekend. Joining me today is Andrew McKay.
Salutations, Reader Reno.
Because the books, right?
I think
the book adaptations.
The AI, yeah, the book adaptations. Adaptation.
Adaptations.
I got lots of books that I want to adapt, that I want to have adapted for my consumption. So we went with the AI, we went a little book-friendly Reader Reno and also fellow entrepreneur or among the top hits.
Beautiful. That's all we need. And you might have pulled back the curtain a little bit on our discussion right before the pod that is it adaptions or adaptations? And we had to look it up. And the answer is both. They both work. So
did we get in a fight about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Full on fight, full on battle. I was like, that's it. I'm off the pod. And then you said, you can't fire me. I quit. And then I said, why don't I fit in? Bump, bump. Sorry, I'll save that for the Christmas episode.
I love that.
Why am I such a misfit? Sweet. Okay, yeah. So Andrew, what movies do we have coming out this weekend?
Yeah, so we got two for wide release. Challengers, which is a drama romance, kind of centered around sports stuff. Some tennis, has Zendaya in it. And we have Unsung Hero, family drama. So if any of those kind of catch your eye, grab a movie ticket this weekend. Should be promising if you like those kinds of genres. So
yeah, it sounds fun. And yeah, we're just going to jump right into our adaptations. So we're going to be using the Gorley method, which means that we each have a top 10 list, and we're going to start from 10 and go to 1 of what we want to see adapted. And if it's on the other person's list on a higher tier, then we're going to wait to talk about it until we get to that tier. Does that sound good?
That sounds absolutely perfect.
Sweet. Okay, Andrew, let's start off with your number 10.
All right, number 10. I have a book called Dark Matter by Blake Crouch.
Not on my list.
Do you know this book?
No.
Book?
Tell me the tales.
It's a multiversal story, and it's unique. I'm a big fan of Blake Crouch as an author. I've read a number of his books, but Dark Matter is a unique take on the concept of multiverse and traveling between the infinite worlds, infinite possibilities, and how dark and hopeless that endeavor can be. And it was a very refreshing take for me on the multiverse, because I feel like I've been overstretched and overconsumed multiversal stuff because of Marvel in the last couple of years. So I read this book last summer, and such a good take on the multiverse. That's my number 10.
Nice. I have not read that, but now that makes me want to read that and get a movie from it.
It's like a psychological thriller. Like it would be
nice.
Yeah, not a fun movie.
That's cool. Yeah, we don't want any more Marvel or Star Wars stuff, or we're sick of that. So my number 10 is Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. So I sprinkled some video games in mine, so it's not pure book list for me. Have you played The Force Unleashed?
Oh, at least 3 times.
Okay.
Both of them.
So it's fun. We can talk about this together then, but yeah, it's just such a fun idea that Darth Vader has a secret apprentice and Sam Witwer plays the guy, so he could play it again. And I don't think it'll ever happen, but it's man, I'd love to see just a one-off movie about a secret apprentice. And
yeah,
it's such a fun story.
It is a great story, even just to receive some affirmation, like include the character in something
Oh
or
yeah.
allude to it so that the video game remains in canon, that would be tight.
Yeah. All right. What is your number 9?
Coming in at number 9 for me is Heir to the Empire, Timothy Zahn, Star Wars.
Whoa.
You got that on yours?
No, I don't have it on mine. That's
okay. So here's a plug for our full video show, because I'm showing a book right now. This is Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. This was the inception of the character Thrawn. It has been adapted in animation and in live action at this point. However, I'm not certain if they're building up to adapting that storyline specifically. It seems like it, but I included it on the list because it hasn't happened yet, and I really want it to, because I think that's some of the best Star Wars that I've read or watched in the last few years. It's among the best, and it's from the 90s, so it's really good.
Yeah, and well, we have a lot to talk about Star Wars. We're both pretty big Star Wars fans, and they kind of, if you're going by sequel trilogy for the movies, they did skip over this era. So nothing could be 100% like it would be in the books, but it's like they could still fit that in there. And yeah, I'd love to see that too. Do you think if they did that, would you want them to recast actors, or would you want to de-age actors that are still around, or mix of both, or what would you want? Because this is Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's hear it.
Yeah, great question. Hot take is, I mean, Luke and Leia and Han Solo are like the main characters in this story alongside Thrawn. I want this adapted so bad, like the bits of the story, that like they could make different characters be like play the role of Luke and Leia and Han. Like it feels like Ahsoka is going to be really integral in the Thrawn story. And I'm totally okay with her taking up that Luke mantle that Luke had in the book. If she's going to be that, like if she's going to be the main antagonist or protagonist and Thrawn is the antagonist, I'm cool with that. I like the pieces of the story the most.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, I love that. I never thought about that idea, because they do need to change some stuff. And I would say too, like, I would love it if Luke was in there, but it does feel like, yeah, do we need to have, can we keep the story, just change the characters? And it's like, it's a Star Wars, it's a universe, right? It can be different sides of the galaxy. And I don't think it always has to, have that. That'd be really cool. So you'd want to have like, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you could have Ahsoka and like Mando and, someone else, just carrying out some of those roles. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right. What you got?
All right. So my number 9 is Redwall. Have you read that series?
No. What is this?
So Redwall, it's like a children's book. It's about like mice and like rats and wolves.
I do know
like,
this.
Yeah, woodland creatures, and they like can talk, and they have like a whole like world basically that they have like lore, and they're like kind of like knights, kind of like, I feel like it's like animals with like a type of like Robin Hood type fairy tale, like fantasy adventure story, but it's cool because like in the first book, there's like the big bad is like a snake. And it's kind of like if you would do like a modern, like a live action, human story, it'd be like a dragon type thing because it's so much bigger than they are. I've always loved this series, and I would just love, there's like, 14, 20 books in this series.
Oh, wow.
And I would love if they just did the first one. I'd love to do all of them, but if they just did the first one and it was live action in the sense of like a Jungle Book, where it's like it looks real, and the book is actually pretty violent too, so it'd be hard to make it like kid friendly and like that. But I just think it'd be so cool. So that's what I want to see.
I love that. Yeah.
And so what you got next? What's your number
8? I think
8. Yeah.
So this is an interesting one. I just read this book, Dreamer's Pool by Juliet Marillier. It's my wife's favorite author, and this was the first book that I read by Marillier. I loved it so much. It's like a fantasy, like cabin in the woods. There's like a king in his castle nearby, and she's like one of the main characters is like a healer. But the story was just so fun and interesting. I would just love to see it. It's like, I wouldn't say it's cozy fantasy because the overarching story is like, it's like very drama, mystery kind of thing. Like there are bad people with very bad intentions doing stuff. But I would just love to see it adapted because there's some beautiful imagery inside of that book. So that's my number 8.
I've never heard about that book either.
Yeah,
I feel like
I have it. Once again, watch our full video pod and maybe we'll show you some books. This is Dreamer's Pool. There you have it right there.
that's cool.
All right. What's your number 8, Heath?
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so, and also I was going to say we're compiling a list. We'll put a whole list in our show description just that you can see all that kind of stuff. And if you're watching video, you probably don't see it because you probably just see me, but Andrew's blowing his nose right now and it's cracking me up because he's trying to be silent about it.
Heath, there's a mute button on my mic.
Oh, there you go. I thought you were just like trying to do it very silently. Oh, that was cracking me up. So my number 8 is a book called The Builders. And it's again, I didn't even mean to, but it's another animal type book, but
I'm sensing a pattern.
Yeah, it's more of, it's like an kind of old west / fantasy book about, animals who are sentient. But it's a short story. It's like the audiobook is only like 3 hours long. Mm-hmm. Like it's fairly short, but it's just like a really good kind of a Seven Samurai type, like one last mission, and they're trying to get revenge for their deposed king. And like, it's just like super straightforward, but just super good. I'm like, it's a 3, like I said, I do a lot of audiobooks and it's 3 hours. And so it's just like so easy to consume. And you're like, that was a great story. It's like, oh, that'd be such a cool one.
Have you ever read Animal Farm? I feel like you'd like that. Animals talking and stuff. Wait,
no.
What? You've never read Animal Farm?
No, I haven't.
Dude, wow.
We have so much. This is the episode where we're just giving each other a book list, basically.
Yeah, seriously.
What we want to see. Let's see. Number 7, right?
Yeah, number 7.
You're number 7, right?
Yeah, my number 7. So, I'm gonna color outside the lines here a little bit.
Ooh.
I'm a big fan of Alien.
Mm-hmm.
This is a comic run. It was only 6 issues of an alien story. So Fox has been doing this for a couple years where they'll get some like a team together, writers, like the comic team. You need writers, illustrators, colorists, all that stuff. They'll pitch a story and then they'll like thumbs up, thumbs down, and they'll add it to basically their extended alien universe. And so there have been some really good stories that have come out of those projects. This one is one of my favorite alien stories of all time.
Wow, that's cool.
Including the movie, television mediums that we've gotten. So even though Alien has been adapted, obviously it started as a movie, and there are other iterations of it. I would love to see this specific storyline adapted. It's kind of like there are classic elements of it. There are the things that you want from an alien story or there, but the best way I can describe it is imagine John Carpenter's The Thing, but The Thing is a xenomorph under the ice. Like they're on like a frozen planet and doing research and all this stuff, and they find a frozen xenomorph in the ice. Thus ensues the story. Love it.
Oh, that's cool. So what's the series run called? Is it just called Alien?
Yeah, so it's...
Who's the author?
The title is just Alien, but it's Declan Shalvey, Andrea Briccardo, and Triona Farrell. Super good.
Sweet.
Yeah, there's only six issues. I have them all. Got them as they were coming out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that too. Yeah, we got Alien Romulus coming out this year, and I think we're both very excited about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 7 is Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Let's go. Not on my list, surprisingly. But...
Ooh, I thought that might be on yours. So this is a Brandon Sanderson book, and it's one of his secret projects. So it's kind of like basically a one-off kind of thing, as of right now at least. And Andrew's probably walking to go get Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Yes. Another plug for our full video show. I'm going to stop saying that after this one, but here's the book.
There's the book.
And, for those listening at home, listen to the book. I hope you could hear that.
I could hear it, just a little flack, the thud of a book. This is really fun, and I feel like Brandon Sanderson's description of it is you get the story, and it is Princess Bride, if the princess and went and looked for Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's such a great description of it, and it's funny, it's just a fun adventure book, and they're like the world is really interesting. It's
so good.
The water is made up of spores. Like what you would think would be water is spores.
Mm-hmm.
And like they sail through it on a boat. And it's just so interesting. Like that visual alone I want to see, but like that book, it made me laugh like out loud. And like that's pretty rare for me to be reading a book. And I'm like, I want to see the visual of this. I want to see a movie.
Yeah. So beautiful. I love it.
And it's one of those books. My wife is not big into fantasy books, and she loves this book. And so like that's just like right on the edge of like, oh, even if you don't like fantasy, it's such a good, fun book. And like I think that means it would do really well as a movie.
Yeah. I call it a cozy fantasy. It's cute, it's funny, there's danger, it's exciting, like it's so good. I love it.
Yeah. And if you have heard of Brandon Sanderson and you are daunted by the size of his books, because they are very large, this is a great little entryway. I think it kind of is a lot shorter of a book and just very accessible, and you can just like, it's not like I have to read these giant books and there's 5 of them. It's just, which I'm all about that too. But if you don't want to do that, this is a great way just to kind of dip your toes into the pool. That is Brandon Sanderson.
Yes. Excellent. Where do we at? Number 6?
Yes. What is your number 6?
All right. Number 6. Speaking of large fantasy books, here is for resemblance for your consideration, like a 400-page book, Tress of the Emerald Sea, right there.
Andrew right now showing the thickness of his book.
Yeah.
Whoa. And we just doubled the thickness of his book.
Priory tripled, maybe. Priory of the Orange Tree. It's an epic fantasy. Oh, man. It's so good. It's 750, 800 pages. Dragons, some magic, but the main like component of the story is different cultures view different types of dragons. So there's like wyverns, there's worms, there's dragons, like those different types. Different cultures view them differently. Some admonish them and worship them and seek wisdom from them, and others will fear them and try and hunt them and kill them. But the different types of dragons do different things. They have their own types of cultures as well. So super fun, super interesting. And I love dragons. I just love
I think it's a misquoted Tolkien quote that's it simply isn't a story worth telling if there aren't any dragons in it.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And it's like, I love that quote. Yeah. I guess it's come out recently that's like people thought it was Tolkien who said that, and it's not, but they don't know who did. So
Someone
it's like
really smart, probably.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, let's just say it's a good quote and we can move on with our day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So my number 6, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Is another Brandon Sanderson book. The Final Empire.
Specifically, The Final Empire?
Yeah, Mistborn.
Oh, so Mistborn as a series.
Well, I think the first one, like
Oh, that's the name of the first one.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm being silly. Heath, this is the first time that we've had things on our list match up. So.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, I have Mistborn. Should I tell you the number or just tell you that it's higher?
It's higher, right?
Okay, it's higher, yeah.
Okay, so no, we're going to pause that. Now you go to your number 6, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, so my next one is number 5, because I just did number 6.
Oh,
so
yes.
Number 5 is The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson.
Not only is that on my list, but it's also my number 5.
Ooh. Okay. We each get a turn then?
Yep, so we can talk about, I just put down The Way of Kings, specifically. I think the hope would be that they do the whole series. But yeah,
Right.
why don't you give us your spiel on why
Yeah.
that'd make a good adaptation?
Here is, for our listeners, some book ASMR.
There you go.
We're gonna get most comments on this show than any other. Please don't do the book thing ever again.
Book thing is.
I hate the noise.
I feel like I personally can't even hear it. Like I
Great.
don't hear the turning of the pages. I hear the flop at the end when it closes.
Oh,
There's
really?
like a little
Like that. Just I'm gonna go like this.
I didn't even hear that one at all.
Oh, really? But anyway, giggling over noises that aren't coming through the pod.
Man, if you
This
could hear
is-
this, you'd be
You'd be
rolling.
rolling.
It's so funny.
This book specifically is the second one, Words of Radiance. But yeah, Way of Kings, Stormlight Archive, has made Brandon Sanderson my favorite author.
Mhm.
Reading this story, the magic system is original, incredible. It's exciting. How he conveys the strife and blight of each of his characters in so many different ways is very compelling. You know, one character maybe have certain responsibilities that are challenging for them because of, let's say, like a mental illness, or how they were brought up in their family or in the caste system of society. And it's just, it's multivalent, if you're familiar, multi-layered. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. It's such a fun story. What do you got?
Yeah, once again, I think it's the story. I think all these things for me, it's like it needs to have a good story, and then wow, does it have a good story? And it's such a overcome the situation, thing. Like, I mean, I don't think this would be a spoiler for the book, because it starts off with a guy in prison and he's trying to rise up, and you find out why he's in prison, and then just his journey. And it is such a good never give up type story. Bridge 4. It's so, yeah. And again, I keep thinking too about these things. Like, it has to be more than just a good story for me. It's like, this is a visual I need to see. And
Yes, absolutely.
the magic system, it's all being pulled. They have, it's from the storm charges stones, right? And then they pull
so
the stones.
the storm light enters into gemstones, but the storm light comes from the what's the storm that passes through?
The storm.
The
We'll just
storm.
call it the storm.
Yeah. So it's like clockwork, like a storm passes through certain regions of the world consistently, and they can put out these little gemstones and charge them, and that's like their currency. Like a charged gemstone is worth a lot.
Which is, I think that's what's really cool too, is like magic users can use those stones, but at the same time, like people use them for money and for like buying food. And so it is such a interesting, so it's like it's a very obviously rare thing. And I don't know. Yeah, that's the first book specifically to me is so, man, I want to see those storms. I want to see like they fight. Everything's kind of like a crustacean type animal. There's a lot of those type creatures, like giant crabs. And it's
crab monsters.
I don't know. It's like ocean floor type thing if there was no water, and just like, I don't know.
That's
very interesting world.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's next for you?
Okay. So that was both of our number 5. So number 4 for me is a little tiny book, Honshin Murders, by Yokomizo. This is like a 1950s, 1940s Japanese murder mystery. Like, think Agatha Christie, but in 1930s Japan. Super fun, super interesting. Obviously translated into English because I cannot read or speak Japanese.
Oh, you could have said that. I would have believed you.
Really? You think so?
It's like, oh, yeah.
I give off the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Short book, very, what's the word? It's very concentrated with like the thriller, the mystery. And I would love to see like So that he had written like 10 or 12 of these short little mystery books. And so I'd love to see like a series like on like an hour per book of like each anthology mystery, and they're all going through, and that'd be just so fun because the mysteries are really they draw you in really well. So fun.
That's cool. That seems like that'd be a very different thing that we're not getting a lot of movies even kind of close to that, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're getting a few of those murder mysteries. What was the murder
on like the Orient Express?
Yeah, like those. We got a couple of those books recently, but it's like I always love a murder mystery, and that's
the Knives Out movies.
Oh yeah,
super fun. I love those. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now it is my number 4. This is a weird one. Going to the video game territory again. I want a Warhammer 40K.
Oh, interesting.
They have such cool cinematics. And to be fair, to be completely honest, I've never played the game because I don't understand it. I've watched people play. I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the creature design is really cool. And I see like all these cinematics and I'm just like, this seems like just such a sweet, like kind of fantasy in space type movie that would be really cool. And it's like kind of like doing like a World of Warcraft, like there's story, but there's not like one specific storyline that you would have to do. So it's just like, just do it in that world. Like that's like a really fun world to just like see on the screen there.
Yes. I've not played that game either. But I think it's happening. Henry Cavill is going to be in a
there was talk.
project.
I think there is a couple of our movies, we can even go with those at the end. There's a couple of these things that are in talks at least,
mm-hmm.
you know, and maybe even starting to shoot. So like there's nothing like super official. Maybe that's the most official one there is, but there's a couple others too we can talk about that it's like, it's some of these, it's not hopeless, you know. I think we're going to get some of these, you know.
Yeah. All right, number 3.
Yeah.
I have the Silmarillion by by Tolkien.
I cannot believe I didn't put this on my list. Let's hear your pitch.
I'm honestly surprised. Yeah. I think that at this point I would prefer, as far as book adaptations, especially if it's a long series, I prefer the medium of TV shows. Like give me 8-hour-long episodes because it really lets the story like progress and develop really well. So I think for almost all of these, except for maybe like Blake Crouch's Dark Matter, I feel like you could do a movie about that. But for almost all these, I would prefer like long form shows, especially for the Silmarillion, because this is the lore text for anything Tolkien, right? This is the history book. And I would just love to see all of this fleshed out, visually represented. I'd love to have like as many creative minds interpret his works and his words to get like the best, most well-rounded like representation of like the Iluvatar. How do you represent those like gods? And like, how do you even do that? How do you like show the song in the beginning that created everything, you know? So there's just so much stuff and I wouldn't even know where to begin, but I want someone to do it.
I agree. I think it's always tough with some of these longer things because like that book spans it's the story of the elves of the First Age. So I think it goes over the entire age, which is like thousands of years. So it's a long time period, which is cool because there are characters that continue outside of that. So there are certain characters that are carried through all those 1,000 years because they're immortal and they're still alive. I thought an interesting way to do this, whether it would be a TV show or a movie series, is every like a season of a show or each movie could be a different like human storyline, and then the overarching immortal elf storyline would be in the background.
Yeah,
so
like a new human every season.
Yeah, and it's like, have a season on Beren and Luthien, have a season on like Turin, you know, and I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. And then you could always it could connect it all. And I do think this would make a good movie series as well. just because it's like an overarching thing. So it would almost be like an Avenger type situation where each movie is connected, but they're also their own movies, and then the ending movie could be like, or the, third and the fifth movie are these giant battles, I would love to see that too. I cannot believe that's not on my list. I must have been, I don't know.
You're slacking.
I know. I just, yeah.
Well, it's okay. I got you covered.
Yeah. All right. So my number 3 is, this is opinionated here because this is currently a TV show that I very much dislike. I want a Halo movie.
Oh, but
Combat Evolved. Yes, we don't like to be judgy on this show. We don't like to be, we just want to celebrate stuff. So I'm not going to critique this show. I'm just going to say what I want for a Halo movie. That's what I'm going to do. So
lay it on me.
I love the first game, Combat Evolved. And I think it's such a cool thing to do, like from a human perspective, that aliens come into the solar system and they're just like, we don't know how to fight these. And the whole thing with the books leading up to the game, which there's a book like before the game, is like humanity is losing. Like these alien forces show up and they are like completely outclassed, outgunned, everything. And the making of these Spartans, which is what the Master Chief is like they're basically their only thing that's like, hey, we made a super soldier, and they're kind of holding their own on the ground, but they're still losing all the space battles and all this kind of stuff. And so it's really intense to be like, I mean, the ship warfare is so cool. Like they talk about in the books that like humans are losing so bad that they have to use other ships to block fire from enemy alien ships. Whoa. And then when those ships are destroyed, then the humans get to shoot, and then like, yeah, it's crazy. The books are really fun too. And I would just love to see that, like incorporate the first book or two and the first game and make it one story. And it doesn't even need to be about the Master Chief, honestly. I think just the story would be cool. Like the Halo, I would love that. Like a straightforward, Spartan 117 story, but even just like showing us that initial first contact with Alien, which is another book, or Harvest, Contact Harvest. No, First Strike is the first book that was written. But anyways, all that kind of stuff is like, that's what I want to see. I would love to see a movie based on that.
That's great. I love that. I saw a meme that was a Halo fan, like with all his little props and stuff. He was like, man, he was crying. He's like, man, I'm so excited and happy for all the Fallout fans that get a really well adapted version of their favorite video game. That's super cool.
I do think the best way to see it, like, an adaptation is going in blind. Like if you don't know it, I haven't heard a lot of negative things about the Fallout TV show, but I never really played the Fallout game.
Really?
Yeah, I played a little bit of it, but never more than a couple hours in. Like it was like I went over to a friend's house and he had it, and so we played a little bit. But I just never played it through. But it was also like, because of that, I think I kind of know some of the references, but then I can just see it as a show. And like, that's the hardest part for me about watching like the Halo TV series. I'm like, that's not what I want it to be. That's not what I saw. And so it's tough, and I'm trying not to say anything bad, but
I appreciate that.
Leave the helmet on. That's all I have to say. All right, so let's hear your number 2.
Number 2 is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson.
Sing to me, Andrew.
Wow, was that a Phantom of the Opera reference? Sing, my angel of music.
I was gonna say, everyone knows that that's my nickname for you, is my angel of music.
Yeah, so. I mean that's me in your phone, actually.
Yep.
Angel of music. Mistborn is not my favorite Brandon Sanderson series that he has. It's up there, obviously, but I think it would be the most well adapted. It would be the best visual adaptation for most of his stories. It's, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you can like summarize the story well, but the magic system is based around metals. There's like ash that falls from the sky perpetually, and the mists are a character. Like, mists come out during the night and people are afraid of them. They contain not only just like the fear of not knowing, like how people are afraid of the dark, but they also contain this sort of like mystic quality where they hide like mist wraiths, like, and stuff like that. But the Mistborn characters use the mists to like navigate around and hide themselves. And it's kind of like the first book is like a heist book almost. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Oh,
but I feel like I did a terrible job of describing the series. That's my number 2.
No.
What do you got? What do you got?
No, you're being too hard on yourself. No, I think that was great. No, I think that's a big part too. Yeah, I would say it's a heist book, and they're trying to overthrow the final empire. And it's cool because it's kind of in this situation where they're like, what's he called? My gosh, he's the emperor. What do they call him in it? Like the king.
Oh, the Lord Ruler.
The Lord Ruler. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
He says that he defeated the darkness. Basically, he saved them from what was gonna like end the world. He stopped it basically, and that's his right to rule. And he's immortal. It was like stuff like that.
They called it like damnation or something like that. Like,
yeah. And which is cool that, like, you're right, because all these like mists, and there's mist wraiths that come out at night, so it's very much like stay indoors. And then like all this ash, like they talk about how they have to wash ash out of their clothes because it's always falling from the sky, which is kind of like, this feels more like the world did end and you didn't save anything, you know?
Exactly.
But once again, kind of like his Way of Kings, I feel like I just want to see this represented on screen. Like, this would be such an interesting world to just like look at. And great story, great characters. What are the Inquisitors, right? The guys that have they have 9. They're like converted to be a Inquisitor, basically. So and they're like this torturing process. But they have like. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they're like the Inquisitors of this world. If you're familiar with Star Wars, they hunt people who can use metal for their certain abilities. Like, if like one person can ingest pewter and get really strong, and that's their ability. But these Inquisitors, is that what they call them? What do they call them?
Yeah, I think they're just called Inquisitors.
Yeah, are like servants of the king, and they have spikes driven through their eyes out the back of their head. And so it's like, okay, these people can't be alive. Like, you would think that they're alive, like a normal person would be alive, but their sole purpose is just to hunt allomancers, people who are able to earn metals for power. And that's just so spooky, like ash falling from the sky. There's mist everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's creatures in the mist. And now you have these Inquisitors with like spikes in their eyes hunting you. It's just so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely want to see that one as well. All right. My number 2, ready for this, is the Night Angel trilogy.
Oh.
So I don't think you've read this one, right? We've talked about it.
You've recommended it to me.
Oh, it's so good. So The Way of Shadows is the first book. It's, again, another fantasy series. And it's one of my favorite series, my second favorite series. My number 1 is my number 1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's just a cool world about like a guild of assassins and this underworld, but then it slowly takes on place of like the entire kingdom, just like a epic fantasy. And there's immortals, and it's just so good. It's just written so well, and about a kid who's like living in the slums and then slowly rises above it to like become this like master assassin. And it's just so good, so epic, and it's amazing. So yeah,
I love that.
I want it.
Oh, great. Okay, Heath, this is my prediction. So I'm moving on to number 1. And I think number 1 is...
Did you do your number 2?
Yeah, number 2 was
Mistborn. Okay. So, yep, you're number 1. I feel like pretty strongly I'd be shocked if this is not your number 1 too.
I think we have the same.
Okay, so let's say it at the same time. Ready? So number 1 is Red Rising.
Yeah, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Um, First book, I'll be honest, first book, I was okay with it. I was like, this is fine. This is okay. Second and third book sold me on the whole thing. I haven't even read 4 through 6, whatever there are. That's on my list for this summer. But even just an adaptation of books 1 through 3, I would eat that up.
Mhm.
It's just amazing. It's like the solar system has been colonized, I guess settled. The planets and the moons around all the planets have been terraformed over the course of like 500 to 1,000 years. But the only way that was possible was by the genetic modification of human beings and the establishment of a class system. So they all have colors. You can imagine the low classes, the low colors are oppressed horrifically, terribly, for the sake of carrying society and furthering their conquest into the solar system. The golds are at the top, and they just live a lavish, luxurious, biologically carved, they call it, for like mutations that they can just like make themselves 7 feet tall, 250 pounds of pure muscle, like that kind of stuff. So they're just reaping the benefits. And so the story is the rising of the lowest class, which is red, against the golds. And it's just so good.
Yeah, it's a really, I don't know. I feel like, I don't even know if this is not, I don't say this is like anti-sci-fi. What my statement is going to be. That wasn't confusing enough. I got Yoda syndrome over here.
You're not being anti-sci-fi.
Yeah, but I feel like sci-fi sometimes is more about the technology and fantasy is a little bit more about story. That's just my personal opinion. And I feel like this is another one that my favorite sci-fi is the one that acts more fantasy, I guess, and just in story structure and just heart. And so there's no like magic in this, but the magic is kind of the technology. And it is such a cool futuristic vision. I mean, they're using, they call them like star shells, which is like basically like hell divers.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's just like, then they have like Drakenjägers and like Titans. So like they have like some mechs, and they have just like the highest class gold. Like, I mean, it would be crazy to have a red fight a gold. Like basically it's just like physically they're so much superior.
Yes, it's like a hobbit taking on Gandalf, like something like that. Like,
yeah. So like the technology is super fun, but then it's just such a great story. And the first one is very much like a Hunger Games type school thing. And that just gets to a broader thing. So this is a book series too. That's like the first 3 are kind of like a trilogy. And the next is like years later. So I don't want to give too much away being like what goes on and what, but it's just super solid series. And it would just be really fun to see that adapted. And I am on Lightbringer, which is book 6 right now. And
cool.
So I don't even know how it ends, but I'm already like, give me the first one, give me the second. Like I'm so sold on this series, and it's so good. So yeah, let's wrap it up here.
Right.
So what did you say? Let's go real quick on which one did you say you think was Warhammer, right? With Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Is being made. And I think they said nothing is super official about any of these, but I believe we are getting a Red Rising TV show. There's in the talks. They're in talks. And then Mistborn, I think, was also in talks. So like,
very cool.
Doesn't even mean they have funding for it, but like a lot of these are being like kind of talked about. And I mean, we talked a lot about Brandon Sanderson books, and I think we could both say that if one of those is successful, then we'd probably be getting a lot more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this would just be really cool. So yeah, Red Rising. And if you just want to, if this is just encourage you to read some book series, there's some really fun ones out there. So yeah, definitely Red Rising, Night Angel. What was your 2 and 3 you had there?
2 and 3. 2 was Mistborn. 3 was the Silmarillion, which the Silmarillion, like some of that stuff is being adapted in the Rings of Power.
Which is weird because I believe they can't actually use anything from the Silmarillion in the Rings of Power TV show.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting. Maybe it's some other stuff that they're adapting.
Yeah, I think that's from like the second age, because I thought that was an argument that like, why isn't there certain things like they can't use stuff from that age, but it's a little weird, ambiguous. But
I think you're right. Yeah,
you could definitely adapt the whole Silmarillion and not even touch the Rings of Power TV show. It could be about completely different stuff, which is crazy. But
yeah.
So,
and like I said, the Heir to the Empire, it seems like they're building to that, like with the cloning stuff, with Thrawn. So it's just a matter of time. So if you've been following the kind of Disney Star Wars story stuff, read Heir to the Empire, and there's a lot of stuff that you can pick up on as they're adapting it. I think Dave Filoni is a big fan of Timothy Zahn. So
sweet. Well, this was fun, man. It was fun changing up a little bit and talking about some things we want to see on movies, maybe even some TV shows. So yeah, why don't you take us home?
Hey, thanks for listening. As always, you can find our podcast anywhere you get podcasts. You can find our full video show on YouTube. You can see me show off some books and at the same time hear me turn the pages. We appreciate you listening. Follow us on Instagram. When we post stuff on Instagram, share it with your friends. Post it on your story. Give it a listen, comment, everything. Interact. We love to see people interacting with us. So that's all we got. Go see a movie.
Go see a movie. And the next thing we've got going on is we just recorded an episode on The Visit with the Doodads podcast. And so that's a really fun movie we go over. That's going to come out on May 17th. So that'll be available. And the next episode is going to be about summer movies. What movies to go see this summer. So we're going to do the whole summer.
Very excited.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Go read a book.
Go read a book.